Thanks, idiots. Not my chat. My chat is not the idiots. People like Representative Thomas Massey from Kentucky. Massey says soldiers will quit if the COVID vaccine is required in the military. Somebody check. There's like fucking 600 or something vaccines already required or some shit like that. I might be wildly off. I don't know. Might have been 60. I'm from Kentucky. Kentucky GOP rep Thomas Massey took heat and won praise over the 4th of July weekend for tweeting that members of our voluntary military contacted him threatening to quit if ordered to take a COVID-19 vaccination. As of Tuesday, the Saturday tweet had more than 8,700 likes and 17,000 comments. While some agreed with Massey, others noted that other vaccinations are required for all military personnel, and quitting the military is considered being absent without leave. I believe you can be court-martialed for that shit. Massey's tweet followed his June 14th introduction of H.R. 3860, which would prohibit mandatory COVID vaccines for members of the armed forces. As of Tuesday, the bill has 23 co-sponsors. Of course, they're all members of the Republican Party. The Republican Party, like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, who thinks the Biden vaccine efforts are akin to the brown shirts. In a tweet on Tuesday, MTG compared a push by President Biden to ensure as many Americans are vaccinated against the coronavirus as possible to the people who helped Adolf Hitler rise to power in Nazi Germany. Green's tweet read, Biden pushing a vaccine that is not FDA approved. Ma'am, you're wrong there. It's FDA approved. It's emergency approved. Shows COVID is a political tool used to control people. People have a choice. They don't need your medical brown shirts showing up at their door ordering vaccinations. You can't force people to be a part of the human experiment. I think everybody is a part of the human experiment. I think you used that phrase wrong. This was Biden's statement.
Ways to make gains in getting those of you who are unvaccinated vaccinated. Because here's the deal. We are continuing to wind down the mass vaccination sites that did so much in the spring to rapidly vaccinate those eager to get their first shot and their second shot, for that matter, if they needed a second. Now we need to go to community by community, neighborhood by neighborhood, and oftentimes door to door, literally knocking on doors to get help to the remaining people protected from the virus.
And in case anyone is unaware, that's the way we do it with the UN and other countries. We go door to door and hand out vaccines. Literally, the U.S. military goes door to door with the UN, hands out vaccines. Life-saving fucking vaccines, but that's the same as the brown shirts coming to get you, right? According to Representative Greene. Weird thing to say when today we learn that one of Greene's heroes, Donald Trump, told his chief of staff, John Kelly, that Hitler did a lot of good things. Oh shit. It's always projection with the Republicans. Former President Trump reportedly said in a conversation with then Chief of Staff John Kelly during his 2018 trip to Europe to commemorate the end of World War I that Adolf Hitler did a lot of good things. The conversation is included in an upcoming book from the Wall Street Journal's Michael Bender. Frankly, we did win this election, the inside story of how Trump lost, a copy of which was obtained by The Guardian. The news outlet reported that while Trump denied making the remark to Kelly, several unidentified sources said Kelly told the president that he was wrong, but Trump was undeterred. While Trump cited Germany's economic recovery under Hitler in the 1930s, his chief of staff reminded the president which countries were on which side during the conflict and connected the dots from the First World War to the Second World War and all of Hitler's atrocities. Kelly reportedly continued to push back on Trump's alleged claims and argued that the German people would have been better off poor than subjected to the Nazi genocide. Trump spokesperson Liz Harrington said in a statement to The Hill that the reported conversation is totally false, even though Trump slept with a fucking book of Hitler's speeches next to his bed. Kelly departed his role as chief of staff at the beginning of 2019 after serving in the position for about 17 months and became a vocal critic of Trump. Not before he lended him legitimacy. Also, from the same book, Trump apparently discussed pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell. Former President Trump considered issuing a pardon to Jeffrey Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, shortly before leaving office, according to the new book. Oh, this is a different book. This is a book from Michael Wolff. Business Insider reported Tuesday that Wolff wrote in his new book, Landslide, that Trump took a sudden interest in Maxwell's case. Has she said anything about me? Trump reportedly asked about Maxwell. Is she going to talk? Will she roll on anybody? Oh my God. Well, I mean, Trump is on record saying Epstein was a good friend of his and they both like young women. Absolutely. Racist, willful ignorance. Maxwell is being held in a New York jail on child sex trafficking charges. She has pleaded not guilty, and her requests for bail have been denied. Wolff has written 2 other books about Trump, the bestseller Fire and Fury and the sequel Siege. When the second book came out, I wondered why he was able to get access to Trump again. I know, if it's true, he just fucking admitted he was involved in it. Well, it's like I said to all the people when the Epstein didn't kill himself shit came out. I'm like, well, who is over the Justice Department right now? Who's over the DOJ that would have the power to send somebody in and have Epstein not kill himself? It absolutely is an admission. But hey. It's all false. It's all false. And not only that, but Trump is going to be the Speaker of the House after the next election. Matt Gaetz has a wild new plan to make Trump president again. Florida Rep Matt Gaetz, who I have no clue how he is still in Congress, said at a Trump rally in Sarasota over the weekend that should the GOP win control of the House of Representatives after the 2022 midterms, he'd vote for Trump as Speaker of the House, despite the fact that Trump seemingly has no plans to run for the House whatsoever. So, let's listen to the comments.
The next election cycle, when we take back the House of Representatives, when we send...
Now here's the thing. I've been saying all along, they stand a good chance of taking back the House. Unless Trump is front and center. If Trump is front and center in the House races in the midterm, history tells us he's a motivating factor for Democrats. And it really seems that the Republican conspiracies are going to depress the vote. So I'm liking the Democrats' chances at not only keeping the House now, but possibly gaining seats.
Pelosi back to the filth of San Francisco. My commitment to you is that my vote for Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives will go to Donald J. Trump.
Now, an update on the Matt Gaetz situation. Apparently, his buddy is asking for more time down in Florida because he wants to cooperate with the feds more. Interesting. The Trump as Speaker strategy has been floating around the right-wing internet for months. And for understandable reasons, becoming the Speaker of the House would bring Trump, who has repeatedly said he could retake the White House before 2024, the next presidential election, to third in line for the presidency behind Biden and VP Harris. If Trump became Speaker and an impeachment effort against Biden and Harris was successful, Trump would become president. There's not a chance in hell that would happen. Trump becoming Speaker of the House is possible, actually. Far more likely than he becomes president again that way. Because as we saw, you would need 2/3 of the Senate. That ain't fucking happening. The only flaw in this theory is that, as was the case with Trump's 2 impeachments, the Senate would need 2/3. Yep. It's also the very small matter of Trump showing little interest in running for the House. Trump called the idea very interesting during an interview with right-wing radio host Wayne Allen Root last month, but soon walked it back, later telling Fox Business that it was highly unlikely he'd run for office in 2022. But although there's no precedent for choosing a House Speaker who isn't actually a member of the House, the Constitution is ambiguous on the question, saying only that the House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers. And interestingly enough, several non-House members were nominated as Speaker in 2019 after the Democrats took the House, including Biden. But actually making a non-House member Speaker would be a historical first. And as constitutional scholar David Forte told NBC News in 2015, the people who wrote the Constitution meant for the Speaker to be an actual member of the House. It would have been unthinkable for the most populous House not to have a leader be part of the representatives who are elected by the people.
A friend of mine agreed.
This is Trump speaking about it.
Fighting, and I guess they don't like people that do that. But he's somebody who's very special in so many ways. And he's a very brave guy, Matt Gaetz.
Accused sex trafficker Matt Gaetz.
Thank you, Matt. A friend of mine, a great guy. He's
Now I didn't put the story in here because it's all PR. It's a PR stunt. He's suing Facebook, Twitter, Google, whatever. If he actually goes through with the lawsuit, it will get dismissed. Not a chance in hell that it goes anywhere. But now, in terms of Trump legal matters, this one is interesting. Ivanka Trump could be the next target for Manhattan's district attorney, according to a former federal prosecutor. Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. on Thursday charged the Trump Organization and its chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, with tax crimes as part of the investigation into whether Trump's company committed financial crimes. Cynthia Oxney, a legal analyst for MSNBC and a former assistant district attorney in Brooklyn, New York, said on Monday that the indictment unsealed last week indicated that Ivanka Trump could be next to face charges. He told MSNBC it's an opening salvo. Ordinarily, or quite often, New York state indictments are not as detailed as this. And the prosecutors went to an amazing amount of effort to show Weisselberg we have everything we need. And they're really not only pressuring him to flip, but the amount of detail in this indictment tells me they're trying to tell other people, you have got to flip because we have everything. All right, so this is a Trump biographer.
You just make it up as you go along.
On Ivanka.
Well, it sure is classic Trump. And, I think the IRS knows whether you're supposed to pay taxes on tuition paid for your grandchildren by your employer. And I think the answer is yes.
They're referring to his comments at that rally in Sarasota where Trump was like, "Who even knows if you have to pay taxes when you pay your friend's daughter's tuition or buy him a car? Who knows?" I'm paraphrasing there, but it was something close to that.
These guys did, from keeping 2 sets of books to, these exorbitant fringe benefits that they call fringe benefits, but are really half the pay that Alan Weisselberg received on an annual basis. It's all so obvious. The thing that really strikes me about all of this is how unsophisticated it is. This is just...
Well, have you seen Trump?
The kind of things that almost anyone could imagine, and the minute they went looking, they found...
You look up unsophisticated in the dictionary, and there's a picture of Trump next to it.
It seems. And Michael Cohen told CNN he knows how this is going to play out for Weisselberg because he lived through it. Let's listen.
What you have right now is Alan Weisselberg's head on the chopping block. And do you think that Donald Trump will protect him? Well, if Alan looks back at what happened to me, the answer is an emphatic no.
So
I think Trump would flip on Ivanka if given the chance.
You know, he really is acting as if he is going to go down with the ship. You know, and I think this is astounding given Michael Cohen's example. But there's another thing that I notice in the president's or the former president's complaints, and his idea that, well, they're going after really good people and they would only be going after me because of political motivations. Well, the big problem for him is that he invited all of this. He ran for president in the first place as a publicity stunt.
And that's sad. That's the sad part. If he hadn't got involved in politics, he probably would have got away with all this bullshit.
He intended to be elected president. And then when he became president, journalists started digging into the facts of his wealth, which...
Wait, they had Blues Traveler at the 4th of July celebration? What? Every time I hear a Blues Traveler song, all I can think about is that, like, look up the Vice article where it's like John Popper from Blues Traveler is stalking me. It is a wild story. sorry, completely off topic.
Which has always been in doubt. And then people that he really hurt, that he steamrollered over the years, leaked documents to the New York Times that gave the truth about his taxes for the world to see. Faced with all of that, the prosecutors had no choice but to go after him. So this idea that this is political is crazy.
Well, I mean, the prosecutors did kind of run on it.
His, practices that
to be fair,
for more than a dozen years, and he's getting what he deserves.
And what's with all these...
Damn right he is.
...it's having tax problems and facing tax charges over the years?
Well, this is obviously a way of doing business for an organization that more resembles organized crime than an ordinary corporation. You know, the other person who I think is in peril is Ivanka Trump. One of the things that Alan Weisselberg is in trouble for is taking money as a contractor and then claiming self-employed status so that he can get some of the retirement benefits that the tax code allows for self-employed people. Well, we know that Ivanka Trump got quite significant sums paid to her as non-employee compensation that freed the Trump organization from paying part of her taxes, and it put her in a status that I think the IRS would have lots of questions about. So these folks don't know how to play the game straight. I think everything they do is crooked.
Ain't that the truth? Everything! Now, Trump could be called to testify in the January 6th probe. Representative Clyburn, God, I fucked. Representative Clyburn. Boom! Then on Sunday, that Trump could be called to testify.
They should go wherever the facts lead. They may be able to get what they want and need without him testifying. I would not want to see a former president testifying in such a situation as this. But if that's what it takes in order to get to the bottom of this,
you wouldn't want it?
More than any one person.
Why the fuck wouldn't you want? Why wouldn't you want it, Clyburn? Got it, Clyburn. You're on my shit list, son. After what you did to Bernie last year. On Wednesday, the House voted to create a select committee that would investigate the January 6th Capitol insurrection. Lots of news coming out about the insurrection, such as Representative Mo Brooks throwing Trump under the bus. This is from the Alabama Political Reporter. Josh Moon does a fantastic job. In a court filing last Friday, Congressman Mo Brooks laid blame, at least partially, on former President Donald Trump. I think he said partly, I said partially. Same difference. For Brooks' fiery speech at the January 6th rally, at which Brooks told the crowd it was time to take names and kick ass. The filing claimed Brooks would not have been speaking at the rally if not for Trump's invitation, and said the content of the speech was cleared by the White House. So he's just saying, I'm doing what Trump told me to. The filing came in response to a lawsuit filed by Representative Eric Swalwell against Brooks and 3 others, including Trump, for inciting the January 6th insurrection that resulted in 5 deaths. Thanks to his speech, his involvement in the planning of the Trump rally, and his insistence on pushing the big lie, Brooks has been a central figure in the national outrage over what was one of the ugliest scenes in the history of the country. Brooks has run from the heat, offering an ever-changing list of excuses and explanations and blaming an odd assortment of people. Here's how his story has shifted and changed over the past 6 months. By the way, Brooks is running for Senate. He is running to replace Richard Shelby. First, Brooks claimed Antifa did it. The day after the Capitol attacks, Brooks began pushing the bogus claim that Antifa or some other leftists were responsible. 2 days after the Antifa lie on January 9th, Brooks tried a new tactic, defiance. I make no apology for doing my absolute best to inspire patriotic Americans to not give up our country and to fight back against anti-Christian socialists in the 2022 and 2024 elections. I don't think that's what he was talking about. He also claimed he was talking about Democrats. During his defiant period, Brooks also landed on another talking point that he had leaned on a few times, claiming that his reference to an ass in his kick-ass rally comments was referring to Democrats. The Democratic Party's mascot is a donkey. The Proud Boys did it was another one. In an abrupt 180, a month after claiming that he was proud to inspire patriots to act, Brooks claimed in a C-SPAN interview that the insurrection really wasn't that bad. You had 20 or 30 Al-Qaeda suicidal types in there. It could have been a horrible scene. And that good MAGAs had been infiltrated by bad MAGAs. Later in March, Brooks told AL.com that the attack wasn't his fault, but was instead fools who stormed the Capitol. Gone were the references to Antifa and leftists. In a court filing responding to Swalwell's lawsuit, Brooks said his involvement in the January 6th rally and riot was merely his way of best representing his constituents. Whoa! Brooks claimed in the filing that he was only doing his job and representing the will of my constituents. By the way, I am one of Mo Brooks' constituents. He is my congressman. Mo, you were not representing me, you treasonous piece of shit. In the same court filing, Brooks also blamed the former president for his fiery speech. Brooks said in the court documents that he never would have been at that rally speaking had it not been for an invitation from the Trump White House.